O you who are called by my holy name, you who carry within yourselves the promise and the divine separation from heaven, listen closely now, not with the ears of flesh, but with the ears of your soul, for my word is not merely sound, it is life. And today, my word comes to you as a trumpet blast, a wake-up call in days that may appear calm on the surface. Open your heart, keep stillness within, for what I am about to declare will shape your footsteps in the days ahead. My children, a storm is forming not upon the seas, where human eyes can see, but in the spiritual realm, where unseen powers are beginning to tremble. It is a storm of purification and unveiling, exposing what is false and what is genuine. It is approaching not to destroy, but to shake, not to annihilate, but to prepare and separate. This storm will not overlook a single soul who remains unawakened. And it is out of love that I forewarn you, so that you will not be caught off guard, so that you will not be swayed, and so that you will not be swept away by the rising tide of chaos. In truth, many of you have already felt this storm. It may have come as a spiritual unrest, a hidden undercurrent stirring within, unsettling your heart without a clear cause. You may have tried to silence it, to maintain a sense of normalcy through the efforts of the flesh. But my beloved, that unrest was me knocking on the door of your heart, gently stirring your spirit to return to the true place of refuge, not in plans, not in finances, not in people, but in me alone. The storm that is coming is not merely a test of material endurance. It will strike at the very core of your faith. It will challenge what is truly unshakable within you. It will expose the places where your trust has been misplaced. False foundations will tremble. Connections not born of me will be severed. Identities built by the world will collapse. And in the midst of that breaking, I will rebuild you not with something trendy or new, but with the eternal truth you had once forgotten. Even now, I speak this to you. Do not be afraid. Fear is the first weapon the enemy will unleash upon your mind when the storm comes. He knows that if fear takes root, you will seek fleshly solutions. If you panic, you will forget the promise. If you cling to what I have already asked you to release, you will be pulled down when I overturn the foundations. But if you remain still, if you keep yourself in reverence, and if you let me take your hand through every whirlwind, then not only will you be preserved, you will be lifted up. Fix your gaze on me. Do not look to the markets. Do not look to numbers. Do not be swayed by human predictions. Look into my eyes, the eyes that never turn away from you. Know this: if you believe in my presence in the sunshine, then also believe in my presence in the hailstorm. For it is in the darkest night that my light shines the brightest. My beloved children, I am not just looking for those who survive the storm, I am searching for those who become a voice in the storm. Those who can stand firm and declare, God is still faithful. Those who are not silenced by fear, but driven by reverence. Those who will not return to old paths when the storm passes, but who will walk boldly into the new path that has been forged through the shaking. And you, my child, are among them. For this reason, my children, you must choose. Choose to stand amidst the shaking, to remain where I have appointed you, not running away with your emotions, not doubting when you cannot understand, and remaining faithful, even when everything around you is shifting. For the difference between those who are kept and those who are swept away does not lie in the circumstances, but in where they anchor their hearts. Anchor your hearts in me. Let my promise be the sure and steadfast anchor that keeps you from drifting with the currents of news and emotion. Beloved ones, you are not called to panic, but to be alert. You are not called to hide, but to stand in the midst of the storm as a living sign that the Lord is still with his people. And when the storm subsides, when the smoke clears, when the sun rises again, the survivors will come to souls like yours and ask, "How did you remain standing?" And you will say, "Because I know the one in whom I have believed." And, my precious children, now that you have heard the sound of the trumpet warning, I long to take you deeper, not just to know that a storm is coming, but to understand what will be shaken and what will remain. For if you only feel fear but lack discernment, then panic will cloud your perception. But if you can discern what I have allowed to be shaken and what I am preserving, you will walk through the storm with open eyes and steady hearts. I do not shake without purpose. I do not stir the hearts of men merely to test them. Every movement in the spiritual atmosphere carries eternal purpose. And in this time, I am doing what generations before you prayed for, yet did not live long enough to see. I am renewing the foundations, not by patching them, but by rebuilding them, not by mending the old, but by removing what no longer aligns with the glory I am about to reveal. Therefore, my child, prepare your heart to witness the shaking of things once deemed immovable. Systems once revered by men will be exposed for their cracks. Towers built on reputation, fame, and control will tremble. Institutions, individuals, and connections you once thought indispensable will be sifted. But do not fear when this happens. Do not assume I am destroying. I am merely stripping away the outer shell to reveal what is truly rooted in me. There are relationships you believe to be companions for the journey, but they were only companions for a season. There are jobs, opportunities you mistook for blessings, that were actually distractions clothed in comfort. There are dreams you chased for years, not born of my breath, but from the world's expectations. Now, I will allow all things to be tested by fire, not to cause you loss, but to preserve only what is worth keeping. I say to you, do not cling to what is already trembling. If I am allowing it to be shaken, then it is no longer fit to carry you into the next season. Perhaps it once served a purpose in your life. Perhaps I even used it to make a way. But the time has shifted. The wind has changed direction. And if you insist on holding on to what is passing away, you will be swept away with its fall. Learn to release quickly when I tap gently upon your heart. My children, even in this shaking, there will be things that remain, and what still stands after the storm is past will be what I build upon. These are the true roots, the genuine relationships, the authentic faith. This is also the true unity and the true identity I sowed into you before the world ever tried to define who you were. Pay attention to what still shines in the dark things not born of emotion, but of the Spirit. These are the foundations from which you will begin again, not from disappointment, but from the promise. Therefore, in the days to come, do not merely pray for the storm to pass. Pray that everything in your life that is not from me may be exposed. Ask for discernment to recognize what is being shaken, because I intend to replace it, and what is being shaken but must be held onto by faith. Do not attempt to save what I am dismantling. Do not piece back together what I have declared to be finished. Be courageous enough to close the doors I have shut. Obey, and step out from the places where my presence has lifted. Do not ask why it no longer works. Ask me instead, Lord, where are you leading me? You will see, ever so clearly, that there are things which collapse quickly, and yet you feel an unexplainable peace. That is a sign that I am moving. And there are also things you try to hold on to, but they begin to crumble little by little. Do not fear that. To be broken under my hand is the beginning of a rebuilding according to heaven's design. My beloved ones, the sifting is not punishment. It is a purification process in preparation for glory. Just as a gardener prunes a tree not to kill it, but to make it bear more fruit, so am I pruning away the parts in you that no longer bear life, parts that seemed alive but have long been dried up. Branches that have been draining the lifeblood from the true vine. Let me cut them away, and believe that what remains will carry 100-fold blessing beyond what you thought you had lost. Take heed when you hear the sound of a door slamming shut. Do not be afraid. When you see someone walk away, do not panic. When you feel an unfamiliar silence after a season of chaos, it is not abandonment, it is preparation. I am clearing the stage, drawing the curtain on the old script, so that you may step into your true role, not in someone else's storyline, but in the divine plan written for you from the very beginning. My precious children, when the storm rises and the heavens seem to shake, the first thing I want you to remember is this: you are not abandoned in the whirlwind, not forgotten, not cast aside. On the contrary, you are seen, named, and set apart to stand firm, while many around you wander in confusion and fear. In this season of testing, I am not seeking the crowd. I am seeking the brave, those whose hearts have been refined by my fire, who are willing to stand in the stillness of heaven to listen and to obey. You are not victims of disruption, but ones sent into the midst of disruption. You are not merely survivors of the sifting season, but keepers of the flame, watchmen on the wall, carriers of the spiritual compass for an entire lineage. Therefore, today I invite you to step into your position, not a position defined by outward status, but the position within your soul, the position of listening, the position of obedience, the position of boldness in faith and sensitivity and discernment. Now, more than ever, you must know how to distinguish my voice from the voice of man and the voice of the enemy. In this season of movement, many voices will echo. There will be words that sound like wisdom, but are laced with fear. There will be suggestions that seem reasonable, but are not rooted in life. And there will be ideas that feel familiar and safe, yet subtly pull you away from my path. If you rely on feelings alone, you will be swayed. If you rely only on past experience, you will be deceived. But if you walk according to my voice, the voice that is gentle yet unwavering, you will not go astray. Therefore, you must be deeply rooted in a life of prayer that goes beyond asking for changed circumstances, and instead seeks a transformed vision. Do not pray merely for safety within the comfort zone, but for boldness to step into the new territory I am leading you to. In stillness, you will hear my direction. In quietness, I will make a way for you. And from that secret place, I will give you spiritual eyes to see what others cannot, and spiritual ears to hear what the world cannot comprehend. My child, the chosen are not the perfect ones, but the ones who know they need me every single day. You have nothing to prove. I did not call you because you are strong. I called you because you are willing to surrender to the one who is stronger than yourself. In this season of shaking, strength is not measured by spiritual might, but by the willingness to let me lead you, even in the smallest steps. True discernment is not born of suspicion, but of a heart that listens, sown that is not quick to judge, not hasty to react. You will be tested not only by the storms outside, but by the winds that stir within your own heart. Unprocessed emotions, hidden fears, and untouched places within your soul will begin to surface, but do not be alarmed. When light shines upon the darkness within you, it is not to condemn, but to liberate. I do not simply want you to survive the storm, I want you to come out freer, lighter, more authentic, and walking in greater authority. This is also the time to re-examine your connections. Not everyone who walks beside you is aligned with your frequency. Not every piece of advice comes from true wisdom. I will show you who I have appointed to walk with you, who must be loved from a distance, and who is not meant to go with you into this new season. Do not hold on out of sentiment. Do not cling out of sympathy. Obey when I say, move forward. True discernment will not only reveal the enemy, but also identify those who are meant to journey with you into your divine calling. I know there will be days when you are weary, moments when your heart longs to stop, to withdraw from the battle just to catch a breath. But I remind you, you were not chosen to retreat, but to keep moving. Even if it's slow, move. Even if the path is unclear, take the next step by faith. Remember, some victories don't come from speed, but from refusing to stop, and in every step you take, I will walk beside you. I have placed you in this generation as a lighthouse in the night. Perhaps no one sees your light immediately. Perhaps you are not recognized, but every silent prayer, every choice to obey instead of reacting, every time you steady your trembling heart, those are the rays of light piercing through the darkness. And that light will become a guide, not just for you, but for many who have lost their way. Remember this, my beloved children, faithfulness is never in vain. Your vigilance today will be the foundation for the doors that open tomorrow. Your discernment today will be the hedge of protection over your family in times of testing. Your obedience, even in hidden places, will be recorded in heaven. And when the season of transition comes to its close, you will look back and see, I was there in every gust of wind, in every tear, in every weary sigh, and in every unwavering step of the one I have chosen. When the season of scarcity knocks on your door, when the heavens seem to withhold their rain, and the earth no longer yields its fruit, I know your heart begins to overflow with questions. Lord, do you see me? Do you know the lack within me? Is there still a miracle left for someone like me? Surrounded by impossibilities? That is why today, I come not with a dry theory, but with the living heart of mine. My child, I am your provider. I have been providing, and I will not stop. Do not let the silence of your circumstances convince you that I have ceased to act. Do not let the delay of the miracle make you question my heart. You must understand this deeply. My provision is not dependent on the climate of the world, nor on the financial flow of man's systems. I am not limited by markets, nor governed by earthly budgets. I am not bound by the doors that man closes, for I am the one who creates the door. If necessary, I will make a way where there is no way. I will cause rivers to flow in deserts. I will send bread by the clouds and cause water to gush from the rock. Do you still remember the story of Moses and my people in the wilderness? They once said, "We are in a place with nothing, no fields, no wells, no shops, no storage. Can God really feed a nation in a desolate land?" And it was precisely at the place they thought was a dead end that I rained bread from heaven. No supermarket opened its doors. No merchant passed by. But I, Yehovah Jireh, caused the heavens to open in response to the cries of my people. My dear ones, I am the same, one who sent manna every morning, and I am still watching over you every single day. I see your empty fridge. I see your dwindling bank account. I see every bill you hold in your hand and the quiet sighs you don't dare to let others hear. But I do not merely see, I feel. And more than that, I have already prepared provision, hidden, not to withhold, but hidden for the faithful to find. Therefore, do not panic when you look around and find no way out. Look up, for your help comes from me, the maker of heaven and earth. Do not measure my ability by the numbers on your paperwork. Do not reduce my power to the limits of man. You may think you only have a handful of flour, a drop of oil, but it is in that very moment when you believe it is the last portion that I begin the miracle. For I do not wait for you to have abundance before I move, but I wait for your faith to speak louder than your fear. I know. Many times you say, if I had more, I would give. If I still had enough, I would believe. But I am teaching you a lesson from heaven. True faith does not wait for fullness to obey, it gives in the midst of lack. Not because I need your material, but because I want to lead your heart beyond the limits of logic, into the dimension where miracles are released. Do you remember the widow of Zarephath? She had only a little flour and a bit of oil. One last meal for herself and the son who was sitting beside her, waiting to die. But when she obeyed the word of the prophet Elijah, when she dared to give her final portion, immediately I multiplied it into abundance, not just for a day, but for the entire season of famine. You see, miracles do not require much substance. They require a true heart of faith and an act of obedience. And beloved ones, the wonder is this: I do not perform a miracle once and withdraw. I am the God who sustains. If I began to provide for you, I will continue. If I opened a door, I will keep it open until you walk through. If I promise to lift you up, no force in heaven or earth can pull you down unless I allow it. Take a moment to look back on your life. How many times did you think you wouldn't make it? And yet, here you still are. How many seasons did you believe marked the end, only to find they were the beginning of something new? How many times did you break down in tears, not knowing how to go on? And then someone showed up. A door opened. Something unexpected happened. That was not luck. That was my fingerprint. That was evidence that I have never left your side. So when the world trembles in crisis, when the flow of provision slows, when once steady sources begin to falter, remember this: my provision never shuts down. I do not take from one to give to another. I create anew. I call things that are not as though they are. I give, not from a finite storehouse, but from the eternal treasury where my goodness never runs dry. All you need to do is believe. Just stand. Just keep walking. Then you will see right in the dry place, in the wilderness, in the space where all hope seems gone. river of life will break forth from the smallest crack. And that will be me. Know this, there will be moments in your life when you feel you've come to the end of the road, when every effort seems futile, when every solution you once knew no longer works, when you sit quietly, looking at empty hands and whisper, "Is there anything left, Lord?" And I say to you, it is in that very moment at the end of human ability that miracles begin. My beloved, miracles do not bloom in the soil of abundance. They are not born in the comfort of security, where choices still abound. Miracles are often birthed in the midnight of the soul, where every external source has dried up, where there is nothing left to lean on but me. And the paradox of my kingdom is this: the moment you feel the weakest is the moment you are closest to my power. Perhaps you once believed that faith would shield you from lack. But I say to you, faith is not to avoid the desert, but to open a spring in the desert. I never promised you a life where you would never hit bottom, but I did promise that when you do, my hand will already be there. When you think you've lost everything, you will discover the one thing that was never lost: my unfailing faithfulness. My children, the most wondrous things won't come when you have plenty, but when all that remains is a single prayer-own broken cry from the deepest place. I hear that cry more clearly than any other. I do not reject a contrite and broken heart. On the contrary, I step into that narrow room and do what money, logic, or people cannot. I breathe life into what was thought to be dead. You may ask, why didn't you move sooner? Lord, when I still had strength, when things weren't yet too late. And I will answer you, because I wanted you to know that miracles do not come through your ability, but through me. If I acted while you still had something to fall back on, you might think it was your own effort. But when I move just after you've offered me your very last, it becomes an undeniable testimony of heaven's intervention. I remember the widow who had only 2 small coins. Many thought it was too little, not enough to make a difference. But I, the one who measures hearts, saw that it was everything she had. And from that heart, I built an eternal lesson on true faith. When you offer me your last portion with gratitude, you are not ending something, you are laying the foundation for a new beginning. Not built on your ability, but on my glory, just as the Israelites at the Red Sea, who had reached their limit before them, the vast ocean, behind them the enemy's army, and no place left to turn. So you too may feel trapped, yet at the very spot they believed was their final barrier. I made a way where none had existed before. I did not part the enemy's forces. I did not build a bridge. I did not bring boats. Instead, I divided the waters, doing what only Almighty God could accomplish. Beloved, when you see no path forward, do not despair. Remember, I am the way. When you find no solution, recall, I am the truth. When life itself seems to slip away with every breath, know, I am life. Wherever I am present, nothing is hopeless. Nothing is too late. And there is no lack that I cannot turn into abundant provision. What I seek of you in this season is not perfection, but trust. It is not that you must understand every detail, but that you will still say Amen when you see nothing. It is not that you must appear strong before all, but that you acknowledge your weakness before me. For it is in your brokenness and surrender that my power begins to flow into your life like a fresh river. My children, miracles are coming, but they do not always arrive as thunderclaps, radiant beams, or world-shaking events. Sometimes a miracle is the peace that fills your heart when you have nothing left. Sometimes it is a small door opening at just the right moment, a restful sleep in the midst of storms, or an unexpected word of confirmation from someone you never saw coming. And sometimes the greatest miracle is that your heart still beats with faith, even when everything around you tells you to give up. There are places I lead you not to grant something new, but to strip away what you once thought essential to your survival. I bring you into the wilderness not because I have abandoned you, but because I want to teach you to live by what is real by me. In lack, you begin to discern what is truly foundational. In solitude, you begin to hear the voice that does not come from the world, and in the very place you thought was empty, you discover the most precious treasure, my ever-present nearness. I know there have been times when you cried out to me in tears, "Lord, why do I feel so alone? Why are those I trusted now silent? Why must I walk this road by myself when my heart longs for a place of refuge?" I have heard every cry. I have not ignored you. Yet, understand, my child, that there are lessons written only on the soul when no other voice distracts you. You once believed that fullness would bring you closer to me. Yet it is in emptiness that your heart longs most deeply for me. It is in the days when no one visits, no one calls, no one understands, that you return to the deepest place within where only I reign. And from that hidden place, I begin to open doors of understanding, discernment, and a new intimacy you have never before experienced. You are not abandoned, you are set apart. There is a profound difference. Abandonment is being cast aside without pity, whereas being set apart is being drawn out with purpose. When I separate you from the crowd, I am not taking away joy, I am preparing you for a new depth. I am not punishing you with silence. I am sharpening your spiritual ears so you can hear the whisper of my wind. There are moments when loneliness is not a feeling, but a calling. When you feel that no one understands you, it is not failure, but an invitation to draw closer into communion with Meath One, who understands you more fully than you understand yourself. I know not only the words you speak, but even the words you dare not utter, and I am here not to judge, but to journey with you, my beloved children. It is precisely in the place of lack and solitude that I have prepared to perform the quietest, yet most profound miracles. These are miracles that require no audience, no crowd, no platform on which to be shared. They are the miracles of a heart healed in secret, of eyes learning to look back with forgiveness, of a soul releasing the weight of blame from the past and beginning to believe once again that it still carries worth, still holds purpose, and is still loved. You once looked upon loneliness as a burden, but I say to you, see it instead as the space I've set apart to reveal myself to you. I am the one who loves your soul deeply, and when everyone else has withdrawn, I remain. When every door you knock on stays shut, I am the door that forever remains open to you. When no one replies to your messages, I am the one who waits faithfully for you in the secret place, needing only your return. You ask me, Lord, am I still worthy of your presence, even when I hold nothing in my hands? And I answer you this: it is precisely when you have nothing left to prove that you are finally in the right place for me to prove my unconditional love. I have never loved you because of what you've done. I love you because of who you are formed by, my hand, sculpted in everlasting love. Understand this: no lack can separate you from that love, and no loneliness can ever cause me to take my eyes off you. Remember Elijah, the mighty prophet who once called fire down from heaven. Aphanhe, at one point, sat beneath a broom tree and asked to die, overcome by loneliness. And I did not rebuke him. I sent an angel, not to scold, but to feed him, to give him rest, and to remind him that the journey was not over. And in the same way, I come to you now, not to call you weak, but to lift you up and remind you the light still shines, and you are still its bearer. Believe that even in the wilderness where you now dwell, I am building a shelter for you, not with bricks or stones, but with trust, with rest, and with a quiet yet powerful companionship. From this very place, I will send you forth not in haste, but in steadfastness, not in fear of abandonment, but in the full assurance that you are never alone. My beloved ones, now I invite you to return to a story passed down from generation to generation, not as a distant memory, but as a living prophecy meant for you today. It is not merely history, it is a spiritual map, revealing how I act when you think every path has been shut, the story of the Red Sea. You may have heard it as a child, or skimmed through it during difficult days, but pause again now, and let me whisper into your ears the very words I once spoke to Moses at the edge of the wilderness. Move forward, not because everything is clear, but because I am making a way even when your eyes have yet to see it. In that moment long ago, my people had just left Egypt. Their hearts were still unsure, overwhelmed by a freedom that felt too new. Their feet were sore from hurried steps, and their mouths had barely begun to sing before they found themselves cornered in what seemed like an impossible situation, deep waters ahead, and enemies behind. And in that moment, the truth is, they panicked, they doubted, they cried out, "It would have been better to stay in Egypt as slaves than to die here in the wilderness." And perhaps, my dear children, your own hearts have echoed similar words at times, words born not of faith, but of fear. But I did not rebuke them. Just as today, I do not rebuke you for being afraid. I simply call you to lift your eyes and wait for the intervention that comes from above, beyond your own strength, beyond your own means. I spoke to Moses, and he lifted the staff. That was not a theatrical gesture. It was an act of faith in the face of utter desperation. And in that very moment, the sea parted, not symbolically, not in spirit, but truly. The waters split, dry ground appeared. The wind blew all night, holding the waters upright like walls, and hundreds of thousands of people, the old and the young, the frail and the strong, walked through what had once been nothing but raging waves. My beloved ones, that moment did not occur so that my people could boast, but so that they would remember, and so that you, too, would remember, I am the Lord your God, not bound by the laws of physics, nor by time, nor by circumstance. When you say, "It's impossible," I say, "Watch me." When you think, "It's too late," I say, "It is never too late for me." When you cry, "There is no way forward," I declare, "I am the way." Ogu. And I know that in this season, you may be standing before your own Red Sea. Perhaps you have prayed, fasted, obeyed, yet before you still stands a towering wall of waves. Perhaps behind you are the old fears chasing you down, memories, accusations, financial pressures, failure, and people who once wounded you, and you feel trapped. But hear this from me. The Red Sea is not the end. It is the beginning of the miraculous. I do not need a path to lead you. I create one. I do not need a new contract to provide for you. I can call bread from the skies, as I did for Elijah. I do not rely on human systems to lift you up. I use my own hand, and if need be, I will part the sea itself, just so you alone may walk through. You may not see the miracle right away, but remember, the sea split after Moses raised the staff, not before. There are miracles that only come after obedience, not after you've understood everything, but after you believed, not after you're materially prepared, but after you've surrendered control. When you say, even though I don't know the outcome, I will still take the step, that is when heaven begins to move. And remember this too, after my people crossed over, the waters closed again, burying their enemies. What once threatened them was no more. And that is what I will do with the problems that are pursuing you. Not just temporary relief, but a permanent end. Not merely escape, but the erasure of fear, of failure, and of the chase. From this day on, do not look at your Red Sea as a barrier, but as living proof of my faithfulness. Each time you feel like giving up, remember, I am the one who split the waters. Each time you fear it is too late, remember, I made a way when every door was shut. And each time you feel small, remember, it is in your weakness that I reveal the fullness of my strength. My beloved children, in the seasons when your hearts are unsettled, when the skies above suddenly turn gray and the sea within you no longer lies still, I want you to remember a simple yet powerful image, a small boat on the Sea of Galilee, where my son once journeyed with his disciples through a storm, not to terrify them, but to teach them a lesson about unwavering presence. That storm did not come because they had made a mistake, nor because they had lost their way. It came when they were exactly where they had been told to be. They didn't set sail by their own will. My son had instructed them to go to the other side. They walked in obedience. And still, there were waves, winds, and water spilling into the boat. They did everything right. And the storm still came. My children, some storms are not a sign that you're off course, but a confirmation that you're being refined. You ask me, Lord, why do storms arise when we obey? Why? When we choose to believe, do the opposite things happen? And I answer you with this unshakable truth. It is in the midst of storms that you come to know who is truly in the boat with you. Jesus, my beloved son, was asleep. He wasn't anxious. He wasn't panicking. He didn't react in the way man does. He rested not because he didn't care, but because he was certain not a single drop of water could drown the boat carrying the Creator. My son knew my power, and his rest was the lesson for you today, that inner peace is the fruit of trust, not circumstances. The disciples' seasoned fishermen trembled and woke him up. Teacher, don't you care that we're perishing? They were not wrong to cry out. But they forgot one thing. The one sleeping in the boat was the one who made the sea and the wind. My children, how many times have you cried out the same way? God, where are you? Why can't I feel anything? Yet you do not realize that when you called, I was already there. When you were afraid, I stood beside you, waiting for you to hand me your fear. Then, in what seemed like a moment too late, my son rose. He did not shout, He needed no preparation. He simply said, "Peace, be still." 3 simple words. Yet they carried the authority that made even the sea obey. The waters calmed. The winds stopped. Silence fell. And in that instant, the disciples saw it clearly. Who is this, that even the wind and the waves obey him? My dear ones, today I want you to know this. My Son still speaks like that into your lives. That same voice, gentle yet full of divine authority, is echoing within the storms you face. The external storm may not yet cease, but if you truly listen, you will notice a calm beginning within. For true peace does not depend on quiet circumstances, but flows from the presence of the one who never changes. You don't need to shout to move heaven. You only need to whisper, "Lord, I know you are here." And in that recognition, every storm in your mind will begin to settle. That is the first miracle, the miracle that begins inside, even before the outside shifts. Sometimes I calm the storm. Other times I let the storm continue, but give you a heart strong enough to walk on water with me. Like Peter, who stepped out of the boat and dared to place his foot upon what once terrified him because he was locked into the gaze of my Son. And the same is true for you. If you fix your eyes on him, even though the waves still crash, your heart will no longer drown. I do not promise that you will never face opposing winds, but I do promise that no wind is stronger than my breath. I do not promise that water won't pour into your life, but I do promise that not a single drop will sink you, as long as I remain with you. So, my beloved children, let the words, "Peace, be still," from my Son resonate within your soul today. Speak them to your worries, be still. Speak them to the painful memories, be silent. Speak them to the temptations that urge you to quit. You have no authority here. Let your heart become not a dwelling for storms, but a sanctuary of the Prince of Peace. And then, when others look at you in the midst of shaking seasons, they will witness something unexplainable, a peace that does not come from this world. They will ask, "Why aren't you afraid?" And you will answer, "Because he is sleeping in my boat, and he is not worried." My beloved children, when everything within you feels like it is falling apart, when the things you once believed to be unshakable begin to tremble, and when you find yourself standing in the ashes of dreams that once gave you life, I say to you, this is not the end. This is not the final page, but the quiet pause before the next chapter is written. For it is precisely at the place you have called an ending that I have entered silently and tenderly to plant the seed of something far beyond what you expected. I know you have wept in the night, crying out to me, "Lord, why did this happen? Why did I lose what I cherished? Why did the dream I carried for so many years fall into silence?" And I hear you. Every sob, every wrestling thought within your mind. But allow me to tell you something that the world cannot teach. Before something is restored, it must be laid down. Before the light shines brighter than ever, the darkness often deepens more than ever. Just as a seed must be buried in the earth before it rises, sometimes your dreams, too, must go through a season of death in order to be resurrected stronger and purer than before. I do not allow anything to break in your life unless I intend to resurrect it with a purpose that is higher, deeper, and greater. I am not the God of randomness. I am the God of divine intention. Do you remember when Mary came to the empty tomb early that morning? She thought it was all over. The one she loved and honored was dead. Her hope had been crucified, but it was therein that cold, heavy tomb that the first sound of resurrection rang out. Not in the synagogue, not on a stage, but in the very place where people thought everything had ended. I restored what no one dared to believe could ever return. Right now, you are standing in that place. Perhaps you are sitting before the tomb of a relationship, a career dream, or something you once believed would last forever. But I say to you, do not close the chapter I am still writing just because of what your emotions say today. Even when everyone around you believes it is over, I am still working in silence, in depth, in the unwavering faithfulness of my heart. Know this, while the world sees collapse and calls it failure, I see fertile ground waiting for a new planting. For it is in the places where you have nothing left to cling to that you will learn how to cling to me. It is when your hands are empty that your heart becomes open. And I, the limitless one, will fill that space not only with comfort, but with the birthing of something that goes far beyond your former dreams. You will ask, how can I begin again? And I will say, you do not have to begin by yourself. I am the one who begins again within you. You do not need to strive to revive the old. Let me lead you into the new. This is not a repetition, it is a reshaping. It is not just the restoration of what was lost, but the unveiling of a greater vision known that you would not have been deep enough to receive without walking through the breaking. You used to think that if something fell apart, it meant you had done something wrong. But my dear ones, there are breakings that come not because you failed, but because I am intervening to separate you from what was merely good, in order to prepare you for what is better. If I have closed a door, it is not because you were unworthy, but because I have another door, a door that leads not to the temporary, but to the eternal. I am the potter. At times, I allow the old vessel to be broken not to ruin it, but to reshape it, to upgrade it, to expand its capacity to carry the heavenly praetor. And it is precisely through the cracks that light will shine. You will not be ashamed of your moments of breaking, but you will give thanks, because through them, you no longer place your confidence in yourself, but begin to wholly trust in me. Do not rush to force everything back to how it was before. Some doors close to protect you. Some seasons of prolonged waiting are meant to deepen the roots of your heart. Some silences are sacred spaces where I sow seeds that will bloom with great abundance in the season to come. My beloved ones, this is not the end. This is the prologue to a new symphony, in which you yourselves will write each note with tears that have been wiped away, with faith that has been refined, with a heart no longer fragile, but strong, formed by my own hands. I am here, not outside your brokenness. I am in holding each shattered piece in my hands, never taking my eyes off you, and my heart beating in rhythm with resurrection. Do not rush to leave the place that looks like an ending, for that is precisely where I begin. The world teaches you that value is found in ability, that those with more talent will go further, that those with louder voices, sharper skills, and greater opportunities will be the ones who succeed. But in my kingdom, true strength is not found in what you accumulate, but in how completely you surrender. It is surrender, not ability, that unlocks the supernatural. You have tried with all your might to be better. You've believed that if you did enough, tried enough, understood enough, calculated enough, then you would be enough. But I tell you this, not by might, nor by power, but by my Spirit. This is the truth I want you to engrave upon your heart. I did not choose the strongest, the most talented, or the most praised. I chose those who tremble before my holiness, who bow before my word, and who are willing to let go of what they treasure, so that I may place in their hands what I have ordained. Do you remember Moses? He was once a prince, educated in all things, brave and wise. But I did not use him while he sat on Egypt's throne. I used him in the wilderness empty-handed, overwhelmed, believing he had lost everything. It was in the place where he came to the end of himself that I began to display my power through a bush that burned but was not consumed, through a simple wooden staff turned into a tool of miracles, and through a man who had surrendered. Surrender is not weakness. It is the divine exchange from your strength to mine. You are not forced to surrender as the defeated, but you willingly yield as children who trust their Father. You ask me, how do I know if I am truly surrendered? I say to you, when you can say amen to me, even when you do not understand the plan, when you choose silence over argument with me, when you can rejoice that I have delayed your desire, because you know that if I am holding it back, I am protecting you from something unseen. That is true surrender. My dear ones, there are miracles that are only born when you place your most treasured thing on the altar of faith. Like Abraham with Isaac, I never needed the blood of the child, but I needed the heart of the father. And it was in the moment he raised the knife at the peak of obedience that I released something far greater, an eternal promise. Miraculous provision, and a spiritual legacy for generations. Do you think miracles are a reward for excellence? No. Miracles are evidence of my presence in a life that is surrendered. I do not give miracles to the capable, but to those who believe, not to those who understand everything, but to those who are willing to wait on me in the midst of uncertainty, not to those with perfect plans, but to those who say, I don't know, but I know the one who does. Surrender is the most fertile ground for faith to grow. For when you surrender, you are no longer demanding that I act according to your will, but instead opening your heart for me to do what exceeds your will. I am not confined to your expectations. I am the one who always does immeasurably more than what you ask or imagine. But in order for me to do more, you must be willing to lay down what you are still clinging to. Hands that cling too tightly cannot receive anything new. A heart preoccupied with fear cannot discern my gentle whisper. But when you exhale, release, and open your heart, you will find that new doors open, not through striving, but through peace. My beloved ones, it is in those quiet moments when you whisper, I have nothing left to prove. I no longer need everyone to understand. I just need the Father. That is when you are standing exactly where you need to be to witness the glory I am about to pour out. You may have tried everything, calculated from every angle, exhausted all your resources. But I ask you this, have you truly surrendered? Have you allowed your own plans to die so that mine may come to life? Have you dared to pause simply because I have not yet spoken? My children, I am inviting you to walk more lightly, to live more simply, not because I want you to be deprived, but because I long for you to be truly free. Free from the need to earn love, free from the pressure of needing full understanding in order to be led, no longer weary from constant striving, but at rest with each step because you know it is I who am holding your hand. Let surrender become the rhythm of your life, not just in the major decisions, but in the small, quiet moments. Every time you say, "Let your will be done," you are drawing heaven closer to the very earth beneath your feet. My precious children, you are living in a world that moves fast, a world that craves results but fears process, a world that sees waiting as useless and patience as a sign of weakness. But in my kingdom, the most precious things are never birthed in haste. True miracles are always conceived in the womb of patient faith. I know you are tired of waiting. I have seen your tears when your prayers seem unanswered. I understand every moment you've felt left behind. Every time your heart has cried, "Lord, how much longer must I wait?" But today, I want you to know this: your waiting is not meaningless. It is shaping the very thing I am preparing to give, and it is forming you into the vessel worthy to carry it. Do you remember, my children, that Sarah waited nearly a lifetime to become a mother when she thought all hope had withered? I came a day too late, not an hour too soon. I came precisely at the time I had promised, and from a womb that had long been barren, I gave her a son named Isaac, which means laughter, because that is what I do when you wait rightly. I make you smile with miracles you thought were no longer possible. My beloved ones, there are things I cannot entrust to your hands while your hearts are still hurried. For if I were to give you something great before your faith has been forged, the very gift might become a burden. Patience does not delay the miracle. Patience prepares you to carry the miracle without losing yourself. Look again at those I have used: Joseph, David, Moses. Each one had to wait. Joseph carried a dream from me, yet he endured betrayal, abandonment, and imprisonment before being raised to govern a kingdom. David was anointed as king in his youth, but he spent years in caves, hunted and hidden, before he sat on the throne. And Moses, a man with a shepherd's heart, spent 40 years in the wilderness to learn how to lead with humility. They all shared one thing in common: their faith matured in the waiting. I do not want you to miss your miracle simply because you grew impatient halfway through. Many begin in faith, but give up in disappointment. Many stand at the brink of harvest, but turn away because they see nothing after the season of sowing. So I ask you this: has any seed ever sprouted the moment it was planted? Have fields ever bloomed overnight? You must learn this truth: waiting is not doing nothing. Waiting is continuing to believe, continuing to pray, continuing to be faithful even when there is no visible sign, because some miracles are unlocked only for those who dare to endure until the end. Not because I withhold them, but because I am building a foundation in you deep enough that the blessing cannot be stolen. My children, patience does not make you weak, it deepens your faith. It teaches you to live not by emotion, but by promise. It anchors your soul, not in the timing of things, but in the trustworthiness of my character. I am never late, but I am never early either. I come when everything is ready, the gift and the one meant to receive it. Do not compare your journey with that of others. They may bloom early, but they may also wither early. I am planting you like an oak deep-rooted, firmly grounded, and a shade that lasts through seasons. And such things take time. Believe this: your waiting is not in vain. It is proof that you trust me more than you trust the clock. If today you see no results, do not give up. If there are no signs of change, do not grow weary. Miracles do not always begin with grandeur. Sometimes they begin with a tender sprout hidden beneath the soil, unseen by all. but being nourished by me. I am working, even when you cannot see. I am answering, even when you cannot hear. I am turning things around, even while you still feel stuck. Do not mistake my silence for absence, for it is in the silence that I am moving with greatest power. My beloved children, do not fear the season of waiting. Embrace it as a sacred opportunity to press deeper into my presence. Let it be the time you immerse yourself in my word. Strengthen your roots, and lift up praises not for what you currently hold, but for what you know with certainty is coming. Let this waiting season become a season where your faith matures. And then, one day not far from now, you will see the miracle arrivanote as a sudden explosion, but as a harvest you have quietly and faithfully nurtured. And when it comes, your joy will not stem only from answered prayers, but from the gratitude that the waiting itself has transformed you. My children, there are things in this life that surpass your understanding, exceed your strength, and stretch far beyond the reach of your preparations. It is precisely in those moments when you know not what else to do but believe that I begin to reveal what the world calls impossible. I have parted seas. I have made water gush from rocks. I have called the dead back to life. I have fed thousands with a small meal. None of these came from strategies, experiences, or haste. They came when someone was willing to surrender, when a heart chose patience over panic, when faith was placed not in outcomes, but in the unchanging nature of the one who never fails. I do not ask you to be extraordinary. I simply ask you to believe that I can do the extraordinary through a surrendered and faithful heart. Surrender is not a sign of giving up. It is a bold declaration that says, God is enough for me, even when I am not enough. And patience is not weak delay. It is the living proof that your faith is not built on instant results, but on enduring promises. And when both surrender and patience dwell together in a soul, spiritual barriers begin to crack. Let me remind you once more of Lazarus, the beloved friend of Jesus, who had died and was in the tomb for 4 days. Everyone around believed it was too late. Even those who loved him said, "If only you had been here earlier." But my son did not arrive early, not because he was indifferent, but because he intended not just healing, but resurrection. My dear ones, there are things in your life that may seem dreams, relationships, unfulfilled promises, and your hearts may be sighing, if only. But I have come to tell you, it is not too late. I have never been late. I am coming to resurrect, and when I resurrect something, it does not return as it once was. It comes back with power, with renewal, and with unmistakable glory. You do not need to understand how I will do it. You only need to keep your heart soft in surrender. You don't need to predict the timing of my arrival. You only need to keep walking patiently, step by step, in the small light I give you for each day. For truly, I tell you, my ability is not limited by the circumstances you see. I do not move because you deserve it, but because you chose to believe when no one else did. Not because you were stronger than others, but because you did not quit even when you had every reason to. Perhaps what you are hoping for will not arrive the way you expected. Instead, it will come in such a way that leaves you absolutely certain, only I could have done this. No one else. No method. No reasoning. Only the one who heard your voice from the very beginning, who waited for you to learn the lesson of surrender and patience, and who now rises to declare The time has come. Oh, you will stand there, in the very place you once believed to be impossible, and your lips will declare, Lord, this is a miracle. And I will smile and say, this is the reward of a heart that did not give up, that did not strive or contend, but simply surrendered and waited upon me in unwavering love. Of when the miracle comes, when what you once longed for becomes reality, when the door swings open and light floods the once darkened place, I earnestly implore you, let the glory belong to me. For I know your hearts. I know that when you stand in the midst of breakthrough, in the moment of rescue, healing, and elevation, it is easy, so very easy for the human heart to accidentally claim what was never meant to be its own, not because you are proud, but because you forget that it is still my hand that makes all things possible. My beloved, do not let the moment of the miracle become the platform where you exalt yourself. Do not allow the praise, the recognition, or the applause of people to cause you to forget that everything that happened began with my mercy. I did not act because you were deserving, but because I love. I did not move to exalt you, but so that through you, others may see the glory of the one true God. Remember the woman with the issue of blood, 12 years of suffering, and no doctor could help her. No method could cure her. But when she touched the hem of my son's garment, the miracle happened. And when others looked at her, they didn't just see a healed body, they saw the one who had healed. Because she didn't keep it to herself, she boldly testified, it was him who did this. I'm my child. That is what I long to see in you, not that you would live in guilt for receiving the miracle, but that you would testify it did not come by your strength, but by my faithfulness. When others ask you how it happened, when they marvel at the change in your life, point to me, not to yourself. I know many miracles are born in the secret place where no one sees your prayers, your tears, your fasting, your surrender. But when the outcome is revealed, eyes will turn toward you, and in that moment, a choice will arise. Either you will use that opportunity to glorify me, or you will use it to elevate yourself. My dear ones, I do not want the glory to be stolen, not because I am selfish, but because I know this. When you clutch glory for yourselves, it comes with a burden, and you will not be able to carry it for long. But when you return that glory to me, I will keep you light, and I will guard you from the snares of pride. When you give the glory back to where it truly belongs, you will realize that the miracle doesn't end with what you received. It becomes a seed that causes others to believe. A sincere testimony can soften even the driest heart. A simple declaration, the Lord did this, can open the door for another life to begin a journey of faith. Do you remember the blind man whom Jesus healed when he was questioned and interrogated? He didn't argue theology. He simply said one thing I do know, I was blind, but now I see. My children, that is what pleases me, humble honesty, without embellishment, without needing elaborate proof, just genuine gratitude and a public acknowledgement that I am the one who did it. Let the miracle not become something private, hidden away out of fear of others' opinions. Tell the story not to impress, but to lift the eyes of those around you toward heaven. Let your testimony be a lamp, not to shine upon yourself, but to illuminate the throne of glory. Do you know this? My children, when you give glory back to me, I will multiply my presence upon your life, not as a reward, but as an unblocked river flowing freely. Because when I see that you do not keep my wonders for yourselves, I entrust you with more. I will pour out greater grace. I will open new opportunities. I will expand your influence, Seno, so that you may be praised, but so that I may be known through you. Therefore, when the miraculous takes place, do not stay silent. Do not be afraid of losing what has already been given. Speak, testify, declare it not with pride, but with humility and a grateful heart. And when you do, all of heaven will smile, and I, your Father, will be glorified through what seems small in the eyes of the world. My beloved children, you may think your life is simply a personal journey, a race between you and your individual faith. But I want you to understand this. Every step you take in surrender, every choice you make in reverence, is creating invisible ripples that the natural eye cannot perceive. These ripples are touching lives, stirring souls, and opening the eyes of hearts blinded by doubt, by pain, by disappointment, even disappointment in me. You have never walked alone. I am not only leading you on a personal spiritual path, but I am also using you as a living signpost, a letter written in blood and tears, in quiet surrender, in faithful obedience without applause, in faith that does not need a stage. There are people who will never listen to a sermon, who may never step into a place of worship, but they will see you. They will watch how you live. They will observe how you walk through suffering, how you persevere in silence, how you love without conditions, and how you choose not to repay evil with evil. And in that, they will begin to wonder, who is the one these people follow? Never underestimate the power of a surrendered life, a timely word, a forgiving act, a decision not to take revenge, that a moment of silence when you have every reason to speak. These are the places where I reveal myself through you. You may not realize you are being observed, but I see, and it is in those moments when you live for me that you shine brightest in the spiritual realm. People do not only need to hear about me, they need to see me through you. That kind of witness does not come from persuasive arguments or hollow promises. It comes from a life fully surrendered, refined, and no longer lived for self. When they see you choose the right way instead of the easy way, when they see you remain patient rather than angry, when they see you willingly accept loss to hold on to righteousness, then, and only then, you are preaching without a single word. Do you know, my child, that even your wounds can open someone else's eyes? When they see you, do not deny the pain, but also do not allow it to make you bitter. When they see you cry, but never let go of faith. When they witness your disappointment, yet hear your prayers continue. In that very moment, you are testifying to a God who is real not only in prosperity, but in adversity. And then the day will come when they will approach you not to hear a sermon, but to ask, how did you make it through? In that moment, you won't need to say much. Just tell the story of your surrender. Tell them how you chose to believe. Not because you saw the outcome in advance, but because you knew the one whom you were following. That will be the moment you unlock their hearts, not through logic, but through a truth that has been lived out. My beloved, there are people in your family who are waiting to see the light through your life. There are friends around you quietly watching. There are children learning how to believe not by being taught, but by what they see you demonstrate each day. And I say to you, you are the lamp in that house. You are the one carrying my light into dark places. Do not underestimate what happens through spiritual consistency. Do not think that a small act of surrender has no impact. Because in my kingdom, even one act of obedience can open the eyes of an entire generation. Do you remember Joseph, when he refused to sin with Potiphar's wife? When he chose purity, even though it cost him deeply? He had no idea that this decision was preparing the path for the salvation of an entire nation. And when you, too, choose the difficult road for my name's sake, you do not know that you are opening a spiritual door for others to walk through. I use your life not only to bless you, but to create a pathway for many who come after you. They will look at your journey and say, if God kept this one, He can keep me too. They will say, if faith could survive a trial like that, then maybe that faith is real, and eyes once clouded by doubt will begin to see again. My dear ones, you do not need to strive too impressively to be faithful in your surrender, because when you live in the light, that light will spread, and when you allow me to shine through you, even the darkest corners will begin to recognize that I am the living one. Perhaps you once believed that glory meant achieving something great, seeing your dreams fulfilled, following a flawless plan, or gaining the admiration of others. But today I come to gently realign your perspective. True glory is not found in what you accomplish, but in what I reveal through you. You may be praised by the world, applauded by society, considered successful by every earthly standard. But if in all of that I am not known, if my presence is not seen in your journey, then it is nothing more than a hollow shell, polished on the outside, but empty of light within. On the contrary, you may live a quiet life unmentioned, unphotographed, unwritten about. Yet if in that life I am exalted, if I am seen, if I am loved by those who encounter you, then you have lived a life that glorifies my name. Dear beloved ones, the purpose of your life is not to attain everything you desire, but to live in such a way that others may see me in everything you touch. Your glory is not measured by your accomplishments, but by the spiritual imprint you leave behind, not in the hearts of those who admire you, but in the hearts of those who recognize me through you. Moses led my people through countless trials. He witnessed the sea split in two, water spring from a rock, manna fall from heaven. Yet his greatest glory was not in the miracles, but in the radiance that shone from his face after he had been in my presence. The people could not look upon his face, not because he was great, but because he bore the reflection of me. That, my children, is what I long to do through you. Not so that others would say, he is so talented, but so they would whisper in their hearts, surely there is a living God dwelling in this one. When that happens, you won't need to strive for recognition, because I myself will lift up your name in my time. You ask, Lord, how can I live a life that reflects your glory? And I answer, live truthful before me, truthful with yourself, and truthful with others. Live a life of surrender, where nothing within you longs to be exalted, but everything in you desires for me to be known. There will be moments when I call you into the light, when I place you in positions where others will look to you. Listen and learn, but it is in those very moments that you must remember, all that I have is from the Father. It is not I who achieved this, but the Father who has worked through me. And if you live with that awareness, my glory will pour through you without puffing you up in pride. Never be afraid of being small. Never fear when others surpass you in things of this world. Remember, glory is not measured by applause, but by presence. A person can stand in the midst of a crowd and still be hollow, while another can kneel in hidden surrender and shake heaven itself, simply because they carry my light in their soul. And when you live like that, no one will be able to deny this truth. I am alive, and I am alive in you. Miracles won't need to be loud. Evidence won't need to be paraded. For your life, a life of surrender, reverence, love, and faithfulness will be the most radiant proof of my presence. Know this, you were not destined to live merely for yourself, but to become a dwelling place of my glory upon the earth. And once you understand that, you will cease striving after fleeting things. You will lay down the need to be acknowledged, and you will begin to live for one thing alone. Hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come. Your will be done through my very life. Now, my dear ones, if your life were to be remembered for one thing, let it be the revelation of me. If your voice were to carry only one word, let it be a word of praise to me. If people were to see only one thing in you, let it be my light, reflected in every word, every action, every breath. For one day, every achievement will fade, every title will pass away, and every earthly glory will dissolve, but my glory within you will remain forever. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell to receive living words, to build unshakable faith, and to walk in the boundless love of God. Amen.